Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, I want to talk about the new parties thing. I am firmly in this camp that there needs to be a third party, and that third party needs to be significant and vicious in the way that it challenges what accounts for normal politics in regards to the Democratic Party and both parties, libertarian and otherwise. It needs to be significant in going after those parties, and it needs to understand who they are. None of this half-meal stuff. If you're going to represent labor, you're going to represent labor. If you're going to represent unions, you're going to represent unions. Now, what I would ask for two things. I would ask that the parties themselves join together, have a kumbaya moment. You can stay significant in and of yourself, meaning you can still be a Green, you can be a People's Independence Party, you can be whatever. DSA, all those things. But work in tandem, work in concert. Actually work in a way where you're pooling together your resources to try to accomplish your goal, because lefties have this tendency of wanting to be their own thing. Fair enough. Even if you have 4 or 5 different groups, those different groups can have delegations of sorts to interact and come together to make policy decisions on what they themselves want to do, functioning. Yes, this is a singular thing, but still within a separate and distinct within themselves, if that makes sense. It's almost like a united people's party in that way. Second, change the language of the debate. Like, change the language of the dialogue itself. If these guys, this video was put up. This video was put up. Let me show you what I mean.
I just got the tax bill 25 minutes ago. This is the tax bill. See how thick it is? That's what it looks like. Oh, no, let's look at the bill. This is what it really looks like. I want you to take a look at this, folks. This is your government at work. Here's the bill as it's written. Here's the modifications that are in it. I can read one word. It's called add this language. Can you tell me what that word is? If you can, you got better eyes than me. This is unbelievable. We're doing massive tax reform on an absolute incredible timeline. This is going to affect everybody in this country. It's going to shift money from middle-class families to the rich. It's amazing. And we've been given this 20 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago. And we're supposed to vote on it in a couple hours.
Stop the political theater. Stop the political theater. Call it what it is. The reason why you were given a bill that they scribble on is because it has nothing to do with the American public. If you're going to be in a third party and you're going to deal with this thing, he's constrained by his party itself. Because ultimately he can't use that language of these guys are bought, none of this has to do with government, none of this has to do with the people themselves, they are raping the public. He can't say that. That's the truth of it. He can't say that. He can't say that because he's also part of the system that's raping the public. He's part of the same system. He's also bought. Until these guys are running in a way where they're not getting massive amounts of cash, none of them are going to say the other guy's bought. That same line of logic is also used for them. If you're running as a third party and you're not bought in this way, then that's the language you need to use because that's more closer to reality. No functioning government would have sent a bill in this way. None. At least no government where the whole point of the government itself was dealing with the public. The point of this has nothing to do with the public. At least not from the standpoint of doing things that is in the best interest of the public. The reason why they don't care is because it has nothing to do with public. The whole point of this is we need some legal fig leaf that would allow us to drain $1.5 trillion from the public or $1.5 trillion from the United States government and put that on the backs of the American public. We need a reason to give a tax cut to people who don't need it. How do we do that? How do we help them not pay their fair share? How do we do that? How do we do that? What's our justification? They can send them a bill like this because it doesn't matter if you read the bill. It doesn't matter if you read the bill. The only thing that's in that bill is We need to find a way to give $1.5 trillion to people that don't need it. You need to change your language of debate. That's my point. If they're bought, say they're bought. If they're being bribed, say they're being bribed. If you believe that these guys are taking a huge amount of cash and doing favors for that cash and tilting government in a way that that is not in the best interest of the public, then you need to say it. You need to call them out on it. Don't take this milquetoast language of this phony, I'm angry and outraged. I'm angry and outraged. And when a Democratic president gets in, that Democratic president is going to enshrine most of those into law. But I'm angry and outraged. I'm angry and outraged. Yeah, good job. You be angry and outraged, John Tester. Call it what these guys are. These guys are bought. These guys are paid off. Government is not working in the interest of the public, and these guys are bribed. That's the truth and reality of it. If you're going to have a third party, say it. Say it constantly. Say it over and over and over again. This system is rigged. These guys are bribed. That's what's taking place. These guys are taking massive amounts of money and they're doing favors for that money. And right now, under this Republican administration, House, Republican, Senate, it's time to pay back the investment. This tax bill is an investment. It's paying back the investment. That's what it is. That's what it is. Until Democrats get out there and say these people are bribed and they're paying back the investment, they can't say that. Because they too are also being bribed. They too are also being bribed. They just don't like paying back the investment to this degree. That's what it boils down to. They pay back the investment in their own ways. All I'm saying is, stop the theater. Your goal in this is not theater. Yes, there's a certain amount of theater to politics. But ultimately, your goal as a third party is just honesty. It's just honesty. You're not in government. You're not in power. Your goal in this, you can be the cynic. You can be the one who's outside of the process saying both of these parties are fundamentally corrupt. Both of these parties are being bought off. Both of these parties are doing legislation that is not in the interest of the public because they're being bribed. That will be part of my argument. That will be a damning and stinging part of my argument as a third party run on the on the politics around the United States, federal, state level. Yes, that will be an awesome argument to make. Just a suggestion. But I think the other suggestion is right. Lefties have a hard time coming as one, but you don't necessarily need to share your individual identities in regards to interacting with one another. Interact with the unions. Interact with the party that the unions themselves are trying to start. The unions have been cowed into voting for Democrats. Allow them a way out of that being cowed. Get them on your side. Explain to them that you're in their best interest when the other party is not. Get that across. Undercut the support that they're experiencing with the unions. Work with Our Revolution. Work with Justice Democrats. I know people don't necessarily like them, but work with them. All of these groups need to be united in one single and specific cause of taking power throughout the United States. You guys can bitch and moan and fight and figure that shit out later on, but ultimately all of you guys are for the most part trying to do the exact same thing. Shift this debate further to the left. Work together. Part of the resources must and need to be used in all of these rallies, all of these protests, all of you, some of you. Those resources need to be spent getting people to be at those locations, each and every one of those locations. And beyond being each and one of those locations, organize workers. It doesn't have to be a union in this case. Your goal is political power. You can reorganize this stuff once you get into power, but ultimately organize these workers. These people are in low wage jobs. These people are getting hurt. These people have been exploited. There are larger issues associated with why this is not something that can linger on in perpetuity. Labor weakens. The more these trade pacts get passed, the more they automate, the more they ship jobs overseas. The power of labor weakens significantly as it goes through time. You need to have something where you can instantiate your gains in this. This can't take all day. Meaning you can't go on for in perpetuity in this way. You need to start something. There have been right many groups that have started and trying to take power in this way. And some of these groups have been successful. You had democratic socialists all throughout the United States. You've had, what's the other group? Our Revolution. So there have been gains. It hasn't been this thing where it's been completely improbable and impossible. I guess my push is, please work together. Please work together. And one last thing into this. Honest libertarians, come on, man. Get on board. Get on board. I just said it that way. Honest libertarians. There is a large part of the stuff that libertarians and lefties agree on and overlap on, particularly with this thing of anti-war. If nothing else, we are on board with the anti-war thing. We're on board with the pot thing. In fact, I'm on board with this whole thing of getting rid of the DSA entirely. I know people should be locked up because of drugs. Look, I can go further with the stuff. I love this idea of personal freedom and everything else. I think we disagree on the level of government in this. But mostly, I don't want government bugging me. I want it out of our affairs. Only to the degree, I want to be, put it this way, I want to alienate a government. I don't want to have to continuously look at each and everything government does to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. By the same token, I do want certain needs taken care of in society where there is a floor to the way our society goes. Beyond that, leave me to my devices. Libertarians, we overlap in this. We overlap significantly in this. I'm just saying, there needs to be a united people's front in regards to getting rid of corruption in our government. We can have these debates, but I don't want corruption to be a part of the debate. Form up. Kumbaya. Kumbaya. I guess my point is, to nutshell it, let's get together and change the language in which we use politics. We need to change the hegemonic view of politics and shift the debate further to the left. I would say part of doing that is changing the language that we use in the way that we go about our affairs. None of this milquetoast shit. If these guys are being bought, say they're being bought. I'll leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks guys.